Listening Practice. Echoes of Eternity, The Books That Shaped Humanity. Book Introduction. Echoes of Eternity, The Books That Shaped Humanity. From the scrolls of ancient philosophers to the groundbreaking treatises of modern scientists, certain books have transcended time and space to ignite revolutions, challenge conventions, and redefine what it means to be human. Echoes of Eternity is not merely a compilation of texts, it is a journey through the intellectual milestones that have sculpted civilizations, sparked paradigm shifts, and illuminated the darkest corners of human curiosity. This book curates 25 seminal works spanning philosophy, science, literature, religion, politics, and psychology, each a beacon of thought that dared to question, imagine, and redefine the world. Plato's Republic laid the blueprint for justice and governance, while Darwin's On the Origin of Species unraveled the tapestry of life itself. Dostoevsky's The Brothers Karamazov probed the depths of existential despair, and Sun Tzu's The Art of War distilled strategy into timeless wisdom. These texts are not relics of the past but living dialogues that continue to shape our laws, ethics, and aspirations. Organized thematically, Echoes of Eternity invites readers to explore how ideas intersect across disciplines. Whether examining the Stoic resilience in Marcus Aurelius' Meditations or the feminist awakening in Simone de Beauvoir's The Second Sex, each chapter reveals how these works confront universal questions: what is truth? How should we live? What binds us as a species? As you turn these pages, prepare to encounter the minds that dared to reimagine reality and in doing so, left an indelible mark on the human story. The Republic by Plato, the blueprint of justice and the quest for truth. Context and creation. Written around 380 BCE, the Republic stands as one of Plato's most enduring dialogues, a cornerstone of Western philosophy that interrogates the essence of justice, governance, and human virtue. Set in the Athenian intellectual ferment of the 4th century BCE, the text unfolds as a series of conversations led by Socrates, Plato's mentor and protagonist. Born from the ashes of Athens' defeat in the Peloponnesian War and the execution of Socrates, the Republic is both a philosophical treatise and a radical critique of Athenian democracy's failures. Plato, disillusioned by political corruption and moral relativism, imagines a society rooted not in power or wealth but in wisdom and ethical rigor. Core Themes. 1. Justice as harmony. Plato dismantles conventional notions of justice defined as helping friends and harming enemies by arguing that true justice resides in the harmonious order of the soul and state. Just as a well-ordered soul balances reason, spirit, and desire, an ideal society divides into 3 classes: rulers, philosopher kings, guardians, soldiers, and producers, craftsmen, farmers. Each class fulfills its role without encroachment, mirroring the soul's tripartite structure. 2. The philosopher king. The most provocative of Plato's ideas is that only philosophers, trained to perceive the eternal forms, abstract ideals like truth and beauty, are fit to rule. He famously writes, "Until philosophers rule as kings, cities will have no rest from evils." This elitist vision challenges democracy, positing that governance requires expertise in moral truth, not mere popularity. 3. The allegory of the cave. In one of history's most enduring metaphors, Plato depicts humanity as prisoners chained in a cave, mistaking shadows on a wall for reality. The philosopher's journey from darkness to the blinding light of truth symbolizes the transformative power of education and the philosopher's duty to return and enlighten society, even at great personal cost. 4. Critique of democracy. Plato likens democracy to a ship steered by a crew ignorant of navigation, where freedom devolves into chaos. He warns that unchecked liberty breeds demagogues who manipulate public opinion, a caution echoing through millennia to modern debates about populism and misinformation. Legacy and relevance. The Republic has sparked admiration and controversy for over 2 millennia. Its ideal state has been labeled both utopian and authoritarian. Attention that inspired Aristotle's critiques, Renaissance humanists' reinterpretations, and modern dystopian warnings, e.g., Orwell's 1984. Yet its core questions remain urgent: what is the price of justice? Can morality govern politics? How do we distinguish truth from illusion? In an age of polarized ideologies and existential crises, the Republic challenges us to seek wisdom over convenience, unity over division, and to ask, as Socrates does, is the just life happier than the unjust? Its answer, a resounding yes, continues to guide those who dare to envision a world shaped not by power, but by principle. Further reflection: the measure of a man is what he does with power. Plato's warning in the Republic transcends time, urging leaders and citizens alike to wield influence with integrity. In an era of fleeting truths, Plato's call for moral clarity and intellectual courage remains a beacon for anyone navigating the shadows of the modern cave. Meditations by Marcus Aurelius, the Stoic Emperor's Guide to Inner Fortitude. Context and creation. Penned between 161 and 180 CE, Meditations is a collection of personal reflections by Marcus Aurelius, the Roman emperor and Stoic philosopher. Unlike Plato's polished dialogues, these writings were never intended for publication. They are raw, intimate musings composed during military campaigns and political turmoil, offering a rare glimpse into the mind of a ruler grappling with power, mortality, and the chaos of existence. Born into an era of plague, war, and imperial decadence, Marcus Aurelius turned to Stoicism, a philosophy emphasizing virtue, reason, and acceptance of nature's order as an anchor amid external storms. Core themes: 1. Self-discipline and mastery of the mind. Marcus Aurelius insists that true power lies not in controlling the world but in governing one's thoughts. You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. He advocates for mental clarity, urging readers to strip away ego, fear, and irrationality to confront life's challenges with equanimity. 2. Virtue as the sole good. Rooted in Stoic ethics, he declares that virtue, wisdom, courage, justice, and temperance is the only true measure of a meaningful life. Wealth, fame, and pleasure are indifferent, they hold value only insofar as they align with moral integrity. 3. Acceptance of nature's will. Amor fati. Central to Meditations is the concept of amor fati, love of fate. Marcus Aurelius teaches that resisting life's impermanence and suffering is futile. Instead, one must embrace adversity as a teacher, the obstacle is the way. This radical acceptance fosters resilience and aligns the individual with the rational order of the cosmos. 4. Memento mori. Contemplating mortality. Repeatedly, he reminds himself of life's brevity. You could leave life right now. Let that determine what you do and say and think. This meditation on death is not morbid but liberating, a call to live purposefully and authentically. Legacy and relevance. Meditations transcends its origins as a private diary to become a universal manual for navigating adversity. Its influence spans centuries. Christian theologians admired its moral rigor, Enlightenment thinkers praised its rationality, and modern psychology, particularly cognitive behavioral therapy, CBT, draws on its techniques for reframing destructive thoughts. In today's fast-paced, anxiety-ridden world, Marcus Aurelius' Stoic wisdom resonates deeply. Executives, athletes, and soldiers turn to Meditations for strategies to manage stress, while its emphasis on humility and service challenges leaders to wield power ethically. The text's enduring appeal lies in its simplicity. It is not a grand treatise but a series of reminders, gentle yet unflinching to be like the cliff against which the waves continually break, it stands firm, and the waters are stilled around it. Further reflection. Waste no more time arguing what a good man should be. B1. Marcus Aurelius' imperative cuts through abstraction, urging action over theory. In an age of endless debate and distraction, his words remain a clarion call to cultivate inner strength, live virtuously, and meet chaos with unshakable resolve. Nicomachean Ethics by Aristotle. The architecture of the good life. Context and creation. Composed in the 4th century BCE, Nicomachean Ethics is Aristotle's seminal exploration of human flourishing, derived from lectures delivered at his Athenian school, the Lyceum. Named in honor of his son, Nicomachus, the work diverges from his teacher Plato's abstract idealism, grounding ethics in the tangible realities of human experience. Written against the backdrop of Athenian democracy's decline and Alexander the Great's rise, Aristotle sought to answer a timeless question, what does it mean to live well? Rejecting the pursuit of pleasure, wealth, or honor, he argues that true happiness, eudaimonia, arises from a life of virtue, reason, and purposeful action. Core Themes 1. Eudaimonia, the ultimate human goal. Aristotle defines eudaimonia not as fleeting happiness but as activity of the soul in accordance with virtue. It is the highest good, achievable through cultivating excellence in character and intellect over a lifetime. 2. Virtue as habit. Virtue, arit, is not innate but forged through practice. We become just by doing just acts, temperate by doing temperate acts. He distinguishes moral virtues, e.g., courage, generosity, from intellectual virtues, e.g., wisdom, prudence, both essential for a balanced life. 3. The doctrine of the mean. Virtue lies in finding the golden mean between extremes. Courage, for instance, balances cowardice, deficiency, and recklessness, excess. Aristotle warns, it is easy to be angry, but to be angry with the right person, to the right degree, at the right time, that is not easy. 4. Practical wisdom. Phronesis. Ethical living requires phronesis, the ability to discern the right action in complex situations. Unlike theoretical knowledge, this wisdom is honed through experience and reflection. 5. Friendship and community. Aristotle elevates friendship, philia, as a cornerstone of the good life. True friends, he argues, mirror our virtues, challenge our flaws, and foster mutual growth. Without friends, no one would choose to live, though possessed of all other goods. Legacy and relevance. Nicomachean ethics laid the groundwork for Western moral philosophy, influencing thinkers from Thomas Aquinas to modern virtue ethicists like Alasdair MacIntyre. Its emphasis on character over rules challenged later frameworks like Kantian deontology and utilitarianism. Today, its principles resonate in fields from psychology, e.g., positive psychology's focus on flourishing, to leadership training, where traits like empathy and integrity are prized. In an era obsessed with quick fixes and material success, Aristotle's call to cultivate virtue through deliberate practice offers a counterpoint. His insights into the social nature of happiness rooted in community and ethical relationships feel urgently relevant in a world grappling with isolation and existential discontent. Further reflection. We are what we repeatedly do. Excellence, then, is not an act, but a habit. Aristotle's timeless axiom underscores the transformative power of daily choices. In a culture of instant gratification, his philosophy invites us to slow down, reflect, and build a life of purpose, one virtuous act at a time. Critique of Pure Reason by Immanuel Kant. The Boundaries of Knowledge and the Birth of Modern Philosophy. Context and Creation, published in 1781. Critique of Pure Reason emerged during the Enlightenment, a period torn between rationalist certainty and empiricist skepticism. Immanuel Kant, a reclusive Prussian philosopher, sought to resolve this tension by asking, what can we truly know? Disturbed by David Hume's demolition of causality and inspired by Newton's scientific rigor, Kant aimed to redefine metaphysics. His Copernican revolution shifted philosophy's focus from external reality to the mind's structuring of experience, declaring that though all knowledge begins with experience, it does not all arise from experience. Core Themes 1. Synthetic a priori knowledge. Kant argues that some truths, e.g., mathematics, causality, are both universal, a priori, and informative, synthetic. These truths arise not from observation but from the mind's innate structures, which shape raw sensory data into coherent experience. 2. The categories of understanding. The mind organizes chaos into order using 12 innate categories, e.g., causality, substance, quantity. Thoughts without content are empty, intuitions without concepts are blind. Without these mental frameworks, reality would remain an unintelligible flux. 3. Phenomena versus noumena. Phenomena, the world as we perceive it, filtered through our senses and categories. Noumena, the thing in itself, reality as it exists independently of perception, unknowable but necessary to acknowledge. For the limits of reason, Kant dismantles traditional metaphysics, e.g., proofs of God, the soul's immortality, showing that reason oversteps its bounds when speculating beyond experience. His famous antinomies, logical contradictions, like whether the universe is finite or infinite, expose reason's futility in transcending empirical limits. 5. Transcendental idealism, reality as we know it is a collaboration between the mind and the world. Space and time are not objective realities but subjective forms of intuition that frame human perception. Legacy and relevance critique of pure reason revolutionized philosophy, bridging empiricism and rationalism and laying the groundwork for German idealism, Hegel, Fichte, and later phenomenology, Husserl. Its insights permeate modern science, psychology, and even AI, where the interplay between data and cognitive frameworks echoes Kant's categories. In an age of information overload and epistemological crises, Kant's warning against unchecked speculation remains urgent. His distinction between knowable phenomena and unknowable noumena challenges both dogmatic certainty and radical skepticism, offering a sobering yet liberating vision. The starry heavens above me and the moral law within me define the boundaries and possibilities of human understanding. Further reflection. Dare to know. Have the courage to use your own understanding. Kant's Enlightenment motto encapsulates his legacy. In a world where algorithms shape perception and truth feels malleable, critique of pure reason compels us to interrogate the structures of our thought and to humbly accept the limits of what we can ever truly grasp. Thus spoke Zarathustra by Friedrich Nietzsche, the prophet of self-overcoming and the death of God. Context and Creation, published in 1883-1885. Thus Spoke Zarathustra is Friedrich Nietzsche's poetic magnum opus, blending philosophy, poetry, and prophecy. Written in the wake of his disillusionment with Richard Wagner and Arthur Schopenhauer, Nietzsche channels his critique of 19th-century European culture into the figure of Zarathustra, a wandering sage who descends from mountain solitude to proclaim the death of God and the advent of the Übermensch, Overman. Set against the backdrop of rising secularism and existential anxiety, the book challenges the moral and religious foundations of Western thought, urging humanity to embrace a life of creativity, autonomy, and radical self-reinvention. Core themes. 1. The Übermensch, beyond good and evil. The Übermensch symbolizes humanity's potential to transcend societal norms and create new values. Unlike the last man, a passive, complacent figure obsessed with comfort, the Übermensch embodies self-mastery, embracing struggle as a means to growth. Nietzsche writes, "Man is a rope, tied between beast and Übermensch, a rope over an abyss." This ideal rejects external moral codes, e.g., Christian slave morality, in favor of self-authored ethics rooted in life affirmation. 2. Critique of traditional morality and religion. Nietzsche condemns slave morality, which he associates with Christianity's valorization of humility, pity, and obedience. He contrasts this with master morality, which celebrates strength, creativity, and nobility. His declaration "God is dead" signifies the collapse of transcendent meaning, warning that clinging to religious dogma leads to nihilism. Avoid the Übermensch fills by creating purpose. 3. Will to power and eternal recurrence. The will to power drives all life, manifesting as the urge to dominate, create, and evolve. For the Übermensch, this becomes a disciplined pursuit of self-overcoming. The doctrine of eternal recurrence, imagining one's life repeating infinitely, tests one's commitment to amor fati, love of fate, live as though the day were here. 4. Art and life affirmation. Zarathustra's lyrical prose underscores art's role in transcending nihilism. By embracing suffering as a catalyst for creativity, the Übermensch transforms existence into a work of art, rejecting asceticism and celebrating earthly existence. Legacy and relevance. Thus spoke Zarathustra reshaped modern philosophy, influencing existentialism, Sartre, Camus, psychoanalysis, Jung, and postmodernism, Foucault. Its radical individualism and critique of institutional power resonate in debates on identity, autonomy, and secular ethics. However, Nietzsche's ideas were tragically misappropriated by fascist ideologies. He explicitly rejected anti-Semitism and biological determinism, emphasizing that the Übermensch is a cultural, not racial, ideal. In an age of existential fragmentation and moral relativism, Nietzsche's call to become who you are challenges us to confront nihilism with courage and creativity. His vision of the Übermensch remains a provocative invitation to reject conformity and author our own values. Further reflection: he who has a why to live can bear almost any how. Nietzsche's axiom, though not from Zarathustra, captures its spirit. In a world where old certainties crumble, the Übermensch teaches us to find meaning not in dogma, but in the audacity to sculpt our own destiny one act of will at a time. The Prince by Niccolò Machiavelli, the architect of power and pragmatic statecraft. Context and creation. Written in 1513 during Machiavelli's exile from Florence, the Prince emerged from the tumultuous political landscape of Renaissance Italy, fragmented into rival city-states and vulnerable to foreign invasion. Niccolò Machiavelli, a disgraced diplomat seeking to regain favor with the Medici rulers, penned this treatise as a practical guide for acquiring and maintaining power. Unlike the idealistic philosophies of his predecessors, Machiavelli's work stripped politics of moral pretense, focusing instead on ruthless pragmatism. Published posthumously in 1532, The Prince became a cornerstone of political realism, challenging medieval notions of divine right rule and Christian virtue. Core themes. 1. Virtue versus Fortuna. Virtue. Machiavelli redefines virtue not as moral goodness but as cunning, adaptability, and decisive action. A successful ruler must combine the strength of a lion, force, with the cleverness of a fox, deception, to navigate crises. Fortuna, fortune, or chance, dictates half of human affairs. The prince must harness virtue to bend Fortuna to his will. It is better to be impetuous than cautious, for fortune is a woman who must be beaten and subdued. 2. The ends justify the means. Machiavelli divorces ethics from politics, arguing that stability and power preservation legitimize cruelty, deceit, or betrayal. The promise given was a necessity of the past, the word broken is a necessity of the present. 3. Fear over love. While it is ideal for a ruler to be both loved and feared, Machiavelli prioritizes fear. Men have less scruple in offending one who is beloved than one who is feared, for love is preserved by the link of obligation which is broken at every opportunity for self-interest. 4. The illusion of morality. A prince must appear pious, merciful, and honorable to secure public loyalty but act ruthlessly when necessary. Hypocrisy becomes a tool of statecraft. Everyone sees what you seem to be, few touch what you are. 5. The necessity of cruelty. Well-timed brutality, like swift execution of rivals, ensures long-term order. He who becomes a prince through the favor of the people must keep them friendly, but he who does so with the favor of the nobles must first seek to subdue the people. Legacy and relevance. The prince scandalized Europe, earning Machiavelli posthumous infamy as a preacher of tyranny. Yet its unflinching realism laid the groundwork for modern political science, influencing thinkers like Hobbes, Rousseau, and realists in international relations. The term Machiavellian endures as a synonym for manipulative leadership, though scholars debate whether Machiavelli described power dynamics neutrally or endorsed amorality. In today's world, the prince resonates in realpolitik strategies, corporate governance, and crisis management. Leaders like Putin or CEOs navigating cutthroat industries echo Machiavelli's pragmatism, prioritizing survival over idealism. The text's enduring lesson that power demands adaptability and a clear-eyed grasp of human nature challenges us to confront the uncomfortable tension between ethics and efficacy. Further reflection. It is not titles that honor men, but men that honor titles. Machiavelli's inversion of hierarchy underscores his revolutionary ethos. In an era of populism and disinformation, the prince compels us to question, when does pragmatism become corruption? And can a leader truly serve the common good without mastering the dark arts of power? The Social Contract by Jean-Jacques Rousseau. The Blueprint of Popular Sovereignty and the General Will. Context and Creation. Published in 1762. During the Enlightenment's zenith, the social contract emerged as a radical critique of Europe's absolutist monarchies and hierarchical societies. Jean-Jacques Rousseau, a Genevan philosopher disillusioned by inequality and corruption, sought to redefine political legitimacy. His famous opening line, "Man is born free, and everywhere he is in chains," captures his mission, to reconcile individual liberty with collective governance. Written amid rising revolutionary fervor, the book became a cornerstone of democratic theory, inspiring the French Revolution and modern conceptions of citizenship. Core themes. 1. The general will, volonté générale, true political authority, Rousseau argues, arises from the collective will of the people, not divine right or force. The general will prioritizes the common good over private interests, forming the basis of laws that bind society. The body politic is a moral being possessed of a will. This general will tends always to the preservation and welfare of the whole. 2. Popular sovereignty. Sovereignty resides only in the people, who must directly legislate through participatory democracy. Rousseau rejects representative systems, fearing elites would corrupt the general will. The people cannot cede its right to govern itself. 3. Freedom through submission. Paradoxically, Rousseau claims individuals achieve true freedom by surrendering selfish desires to the general will. This social contract transforms natural liberty, unrestrained instinct, into civil liberty, moral autonomy within a community. 4. Critique of inequality. Rousseau traces societal corruption to the invention of private property, which bred greed and hierarchy. A just state must mitigate inequality to preserve unity and virtue. 5. The legislator as architect. A wise, impartial legislator, not a ruler, is needed to draft laws that align with the general will, educating citizens to prioritize the common good over factionalism. Legacy and relevance. The social contract ignited revolutions and reshaped political thought. Its ideals underpinned the French Revolution's Declaration of the Rights of Man and influenced Kant, Marx, and Rawls. However, Rousseau's ideas sparked debate. Critics warn the general will risks tyranny of the majority, while admirers laud its vision of civic empowerment. Today, the text resonates in movements advocating participatory democracy, climate justice, a global common good, and digital governance. Modern direct democracy experiments, like citizen assemblies, echo Rousseau's distrust of political elites. Yet his warnings about inequality and corruption feel urgent in an age of wealth gaps and populist demagoguery. Further reflection. Freedom is obedience to the law one has prescribed to oneself. Rousseau's paradox challenges modern individualism. In an era of polarized politics and corporate power, the social contract * compels us to ask, can we reclaim sovereignty in a fragmented world? And how do we balance personal freedom with collective responsibility to the planet and each other? On the Origin of Species by Charles Darwin. The Genesis of Evolutionary Thought and the Unification of Biology. Context and Creation. Published in 1859, On the Origin of Species emerged from Charles Darwin's decades of meticulous observation, most notably during his 1831-1836 voyage on the HMS Beagle. Struck by the diversity of life, particularly the variations among Galapagos finches and fossils of extinct species, Darwin proposed a radical theory: life evolves through natural selection. Though he formulated his ideas by 1844, he delayed publication due to the era's religious orthodoxy. The catalyst came in 1858 when Alfred Russel Wallace independently conceived a similar theory, prompting Darwin to finally unveil his work. The book's full title, On the Origin of Species by Means of Natural Selection, or the Preservation of Favored Races in the Struggle for Life, encapsulates its revolutionary challenge to creationist narratives. Core themes. 1. Natural selection, the engine of evolution. Darwin posited that species produce more offspring than can survive, leading to a struggle for existence. Traits enhancing survival and reproduction, favored races, are passed on, gradually altering populations over time. Asterisk, it is not the strongest of the species that survives, nor the most intelligent, but the one most responsive to change. 2. Variation and adaptation, random heritable variations within species, e.g., beak shapes in finches, allow individuals to adapt to environments. Over millennia, these accumulate, driving speciation. 3. Common descent, all life shares a common ancestor, depicted in Darwin's tree of life metaphor. This contradicted the Victorian belief in fixed, divine creation, proposing instead a dynamic, interconnected biosphere. 4. Gradualism over catastrophism, evolution proceeds incrementally over vast timescales, not through sudden divine acts or catastrophes. This slow process explains Earth's fossil record and biogeographic patterns. Legacy and relevance on the origin of species revolutionized science, unifying biology under a single framework. Despite initial backlash, famously satirized as Man from Monkeys, Darwin's theory gained traction with the 20th century modern synthesis, integrating genetics, Mendel's work, and molecular biology. Today, it underpins fields from medicine, antibiotic resistance, to conservation, biodiversity strategies. Darwin's ideas also spark societal debates, notably the Scopes trial, 1925, and ongoing creationism versus evolution discourse. Yet, DNA evidence and fossil discoveries have solidified evolution as the cornerstone of biology. Further reflection, there is grandeur in this view of life. From so simple a beginning, endless forms most beautiful and most wonderful have been, and are being, evolved. Darwin's closing words remind us of evolution's power to explain life's diversity. In an era of climate crisis and pandemics, understanding evolution is not just academic, it is vital for preserving the endless forms that define our planet's legacy. On the Origin of Species by Charles Darwin, The Genesis of Evolutionary Thought and the Unification of Biology. Context and Creation, published in 1859, On the Origin of Species emerged from Charles Darwin's decades of meticulous observation, most notably during his 1831-1836 voyage on the HMS Beagle. Struck by the diversity of life, particularly the variations among Galapagos finches and fossils of extinct species, Darwin proposed a radical theory: life evolves through natural selection. Though he formulated his ideas by 1844, he delayed publication due to the era's religious orthodoxy. The catalyst came in 1858 when Alfred Russel Wallace independently conceived a similar theory, prompting Darwin to finally unveil his work. The book's full title, On the Origin of Species by Means of Natural Selection, or the Preservation of Favored Races in the Struggle for Life, encapsulates its revolutionary challenge to creationist narratives. Core Themes. 1. Natural selection, the engine of evolution. Darwin posited that species produce more offspring than can survive, leading to a struggle for existence. Traits enhancing survival and reproduction, favored races, are passed on, gradually altering populations over time. Asterisk, it is not the strongest of the species that survives, nor the most intelligent, but the one most responsive to change. 2. Variation and adaptation, random heritable variations within species, e.g., beak shapes in finches, allow individuals to adapt to environments. Over millennia, these accumulate, driving speciation. 3. Common descent, all life shares a common ancestor, depicted in Darwin's tree of life metaphor. This contradicted the Victorian belief in fixed, divine creation, proposing instead a dynamic, interconnected biosphere. 4. Gradualism over catastrophism, evolution proceeds incrementally over vast timescales, not through sudden divine acts or catastrophes. This slow process explains Earth's fossil record and biogeographic patterns. Legacy and relevance on the origin of species revolutionized science, unifying biology under a single framework. Despite initial backlash, famously satirized as Man from Monkeys, Darwin's theory gained traction with the 20th century modern synthesis, integrating genetics, Mendel's work, and molecular biology. Today, it underpins fields from medicine, antibiotic resistance, to conservation, biodiversity strategies. Darwin's ideas also spark societal debates, notably the Scopes trial, 1925, and ongoing creationism versus evolution discourse. Yet, DNA evidence and fossil discoveries have solidified evolution as the cornerstone of biology. Further reflection: there is grandeur in this view of life. From so simple a beginning, endless forms most beautiful and most wonderful have been, and are being, evolved. Darwin's closing words remind us of evolution's power to explain life's diversity. In an era of climate crisis and pandemics, understanding evolution is not just academic, it is vital for preserving the endless forms that define our planet's legacy. Philosophiae Naturalis Principia Mathematica by Isaac Newton, the foundation of classical mechanics and the laws of the cosmos. Context and Creation, published in 1687, Philosophiae Naturalis Principia Mathematica, commonly Principia, emerged from Isaac Newton's groundbreaking work at Cambridge University. Motivated by unresolved questions about planetary motion and inspired by predecessors like Galileo and Kepler, Newton synthesized his discoveries into a unified mathematical framework. The infamous apple anecdote, though likely mythic, symbolizes his insight into universal gravitation. Written in Latin, the Principia revolutionized science by replacing Aristotelian physics with a mechanistic universe governed by immutable laws. Core themes: 1. The three laws of motion. First law: inertia. A body remains at rest or in uniform motion unless acted upon by an external force. Second law: F equals ma, force equals mass times acceleration, quantifying the relationship between motion and its causes. Third law: action-reaction. For every action, there is an equal and opposite reaction. 2. Law of universal gravitation: every mass attracts another with a force proportional to their masses and inversely proportional to the square of the distance between them. This unified celestial and terrestrial mechanics, explaining phenomena from falling apples to planetary orbits. 3. Mathematical rigor: Newton employed geometric proofs, avoiding his own calculus, termed flux ions, to derive planetary trajectories, tidal patterns, and cometary motion, establishing a precedent for empirical and mathematical precision in science. 4. Scientific methodology: the Principia exemplified the scientific method, blending observation, experimentation, and mathematical deduction. Newton's dictum *hypotheses non fingo, I frame no hypotheses, underscored his commitment to evidence-based theory. Legacy and relevance: the Principia catalyzed the scientific revolution and enlightenment, reshaping humanity's view of nature as orderly and mathematically describable. It influenced Enlightenment thinkers like Voltaire and laid the groundwork for classical mechanics, essential for engineering, astronomy, and technology. Though Einstein's relativity later refined Newtonian physics for extreme conditions, Newton's laws remain foundational for most practical applications, from bridge construction to space exploration. Newton's work also sparked philosophical shifts, promoting a universe governed by natural laws rather than divine whim. His prioritization of reason and empirical inquiry became a blueprint for modern science. Further reflection: if I have seen further, it is by standing on the shoulders of giants. Newton's humble acknowledgement of his predecessors encapsulates the collaborative spirit of scientific progress. In an age of quantum computing and interplanetary exploration, the Principia reminds us that curiosity, coupled with rigorous inquiry, can unlock the universe's deepest secrets one equation at a time. The Structure of Scientific Revolutions by Thomas Kuhn: the Dynamics of Paradigm Shifts and the Evolution of Science. Context and Creation, published in 1962, The Structure of Scientific Revolutions emerged from Thomas Kuhn's background as a historian and philosopher of science. Dissatisfied with the linear, cumulative narrative of scientific progress, Kuhn proposed a radical new framework: science advances through paradigm shifts, revolutionary transformations in foundational assumptions. Written during the Cold War, a period of rapid technological and theoretical change, Kuhn's work challenged the positivist view of science as a steady march toward objective truth, instead emphasizing its cyclical, often disruptive nature. Core themes 1. Paradigms and normal science. A paradigm is a shared set of theories, methods, and standards that define a scientific community's work, e.g., Newtonian mechanics, the geocentric model. During periods of normal science, researchers solve puzzles within this framework, refining and extending it. 2. Anomalies and crisis. Over time, anomalies phenomena the paradigm cannot explain accumulate. When these become too disruptive, a crisis ensues, prompting scientists to question the paradigm's validity. 3. Scientific revolutions and paradigm shifts. A revolution occurs when a new paradigm replaces the old one, fundamentally altering how scientists view their field. Examples include the shift from geocentrism, Earth-centered universe, to heliocentrism, Copernican model. The transition from Newtonian physics to Einstein's relativity. Kuhn famously wrote, "Successive paradigms tell us different things about the population of the universe and about that population's behavior." 4. Incommensurability. Competing paradigms are incommensurable, they operate under different rules, making direct comparison difficult. This challenges the notion of objective, cumulative progress. Legacy and relevance. Kuhn's work revolutionized the philosophy of science, influencing fields from sociology to education. It sparked debates about scientific objectivity, with critics arguing that his model risked relativism. However, Kuhn maintained that science progresses through improved problem-solving, even if not toward an absolute truth. Today, paradigm shifts are invoked to explain disruptions in technology, e.g., the digital revolution, and medicine, e.g., the microbiome's role in health. Kuhn's ideas also resonate in discussions about climate science and AI ethics, where entrenched paradigms clash with emerging evidence. Further reflection. The transition from a paradigm in crisis to a new one, is a reconstruction of the field from new fundamentals. Kuhn's insight reminds us that progress often demands dismantling old frameworks. In an era of accelerating innovation, his work challenges us to embrace intellectual flexibility, recognizing that today's certainties may become tomorrow's historical footnotes. A Brief History of Time by Stephen Hawking. Democratizing the Cosmos, From Black Holes to the Big Bang. Context and Creation. Published in 1988, A Brief History of Time emerged from Stephen Hawking's desire to make cutting-edge cosmology accessible to non-scientists. Diagnosed with ALS at 21 and given just years to live, Hawking defied expectations, becoming a luminary in theoretical physics while losing his ability to speak. Using a speech-generating device, he distilled complex ideas about the universe's origins, black holes, and time into a concise, equation-free narrative. The book's unexpected global success, selling over 25 million copies, transformed Hawking into a cultural icon and proved that curiosity about the cosmos transcends academic boundaries. Core themes 1. The Big Bang and the universe's origins. Hawking explains how Einstein's relativity and quantum theory converge to suggest the universe began as a singularity and infinitely dense point 13.8 billion years ago. He famously quipped, "The universe doesn't allow perfection," highlighting the irregularities that seeded galaxies. 2. Black holes, not so black. Hawking's groundbreaking theory proposed that black holes emit radiation, now called Hawking radiation, due to quantum effects near their event horizons, challenging the idea that nothing escapes them. Black holes ain't as black as they are painted. 3. The arrow of time. Why does time move forward? Hawking links it to entropy, disorder, suggesting time's direction aligns with the universe's expansion from order to chaos. 4. The quest for a unified theory. Hawking pursued Einstein's dream of a theory of everything uniting relativity and quantum mechanics, discussing candidates like string theory. If we discover a complete theory, it would be the ultimate triumph of human reason. 5. Philosophical implications. Does the universe need a creator? Hawking argued that if a unified theory exists, the universe could be self-contained, No boundary in space-time and no need for a creator. Legacy and relevance. The brief history of time democratized cosmology, inspiring countless readers to ponder existence's grandest questions. It reshaped science communication, proving that esoteric ideas could captivate mainstream audiences. Hawking's work also spurred debates on AI, extraterrestrial life, and humanity's cosmic responsibility. The book's enduring appeal lies in its blend of humility and ambition. Hawking acknowledged science's limits. The greatest enemy of knowledge is not ignorance, it is the illusion of knowledge, while urging perseverance in unraveling mysteries. Today, as gravitational wave astronomy and quantum computing advance, his vision of a knowable universe continues to guide researchers. Further reflection. Look up at the stars and not down at your feet. Try to make sense of what you see, and wonder about what makes the universe exist. Be curious. Hawking's call to curiosity transcends science, inviting us to embrace wonder in an age of distraction. In a world grappling with existential threats, his words remind us that the cosmos is not just a subject of study, it is a mirror reflecting humanity's boundless potential. The Divine Comedy by Dante Alighieri. A pilgrimage through hell, purgatory, and the human soul. Context and creation. Written between 1308 and 1321, the Divine Comedy emerged from Dante Alighieri's bitter exile from Florence, where political rivalries had branded him a traitor. This epic poem, originally titled Commedia, the Divine was added later by admirers, transmutes personal anguish into a universal quest for meaning. Structured as an allegorical journey through the afterlife's three realms, Inferno, Purgatorio, Paradiso, the work blends medieval theology, classical philosophy, and scathing political commentary. Guided first by the Roman poet Virgil, reason, and later by his idealized beloved Beatrice, divine love, Dante's Odyssey reflects humanity's struggle to reconcile sin, virtue, and redemption. Core themes. 1. The architecture of the afterlife, Inferno, a funnel-shaped hell with 9 circles, each punishing specific sins, e.g., lust, greed, treachery, through contrapasso poetic justice where punishments mirror crimes. Purgatorio, a mountain of 7 terraces, where souls purge sins like pride and envy through painful yet hopeful purification. Paradiso, 9 celestial spheres culminating in the Empyrean, where divine light unites all souls with God. 2. Morality as a mirror of the human condition, Dante's encounters with historical and mythical figures from Francesca da Rimini, lust, to his mentor Brunetto Latini, sodomy, reveal the fragility of human virtue. His pity for sinners, there is no greater sorrow than to recall happiness in misery, underscores the tension between divine justice and earthly empathy. 3. Free will and redemption, the poem asserts that humans, endowed with free will, choose their eternal fate. Purgatory embodies this hope, here to demand is to gain, as souls actively repent to ascend toward grace. 4. Political and spiritual critique, Dante condemns corruption in the church and state, placing popes in hell and critiquing Florence's factionalism. His vision of a unified empire under God reflects his disillusionment with medieval Italy's chaos. Legacy and relevance. The Divine Comedy became a cornerstone of Western literature, shaping writers from Chaucer to T.S. Eliot and inspiring artists like Botticelli and Dali. Its terza rima verse and vivid imagery redefined poetic expression, bridging the medieval and Renaissance worlds. Today, the poem resonates in debates about morality, justice, and resilience. Modern adaptations from video games, Dante's Inferno, to Primo Levi's Holocaust memoir, If This Is a Man, testify to its enduring power. Dante's journey reminds us that confronting darkness, both within and without, is the path to transcendence. Further reflection. In the middle of the journey of our life, I found myself within a dark wood, for the straight way was lost. Dante's opening lines mirror every human's existential crisis. In an age of moral ambiguity and societal fracture, the Divine Comedy challenges us to confront our own dark woods, seeking not perfection but progress one step closer to light, one sin purged at a time. War and Peace by Leo Tolstoy. A tapestry of history, free will, and the human spirit. Context and creation. Written between 1863 and 1869, War and Peace emerged from Leo Tolstoy's profound interrogation of history and human agency. Set against the backdrop of the Napoleonic Wars, particularly the 1812 French invasion of Russia, the novel blends fictional narratives with historical analysis. Tolstoy, disillusioned by his own experiences in the Crimean War and critical of traditional historiography, sought to dismantle the great man theory, which glorified leaders like Napoleon. Instead, he spotlighted the collective power of ordinary individuals and the chaotic, unpredictable nature of historical events. Published serially, the work's innovative structure interweaving battlefields, salons, and philosophical essays redefined the epic novel. Core themes. 1. The illusion of control in history. Tolstoy argues that history is not shaped by leaders' grand strategies but by countless minor actions and accidents. The Battle of Borodino epitomizes this. Napoleon's plans dissolve into chaos, revealing the futility of human pretensions to command fate. The strongest of all warriors are these two: time and patience. 2. Free will versus determinism. Characters grapple with agency amid vast historical forces. Pierre Bezukhov's existential quest from Masonic mysticism to enlightenment through the peasant Platon narrative mirrors Tolstoy's belief in finding meaning through humility and connection. Prince Andrei Bolkonsky shifts from chasing military glory to embracing inner peace, his death underscoring the transcendence of personal strife. 3. The human experience in war. Tolstoy contrasts aristocratic idealism with peasant pragmatism. Natasha Rostova's journey from youthful impulsivity to resilient maturity embodies the endurance of the human spirit. Her dance at a rustic gathering, a moment of pure joy amid war's horrors, symbolizes life's persistence. 4. Critique of heroism. Historical figures like Napoleon are parroted as vain and deluded, while heroism is redefined through acts of ordinary soldiers and civilians. The novel elevates quiet courage such as Captain Tushin's unheralded bravery at Skongravern over grand narratives. 5. Philosophy of history. In essayistic interludes, Tolstoy condemns historians for ignoring the swarm of human wills driving events. He likens history to calculus, where infinitesimal actions aggregate into unstoppable forces. Legacy and relevance. War and Peace revolutionized literature, merging fiction with historiography and philosophy. Its influence spans existential thought, e.g., Camus' absurdism, and modern historiography's focus on social history. The novel's exploration of chaos and resilience resonates in contemporary crises, from pandemics to climate change, where individual actions intersect with global upheaval. Tolstoy's critique of leadership cults and his emphasis on collective agency find echoes in today's social movements. The book challenges us to reconsider how history is recorded and who gets to write it. Further reflection. We can know only that we know nothing. And that is the highest degree of human wisdom. Tolstoy's humility in the face of life's complexity speaks to our modern era of information overload and existential uncertainty. War and Peace invites us to embrace the messiness of history, find purpose in connection, and recognize that even in chaos, every small act of kindness or courage weaves the fabric of our shared humanity. 1984 by George Orwell. The dystopian mirror of totalitarianism and the erosion of truth. Context and creation. Published in 1949, 1984 emerged from George Orwell's profound disillusionment with totalitarian regimes of the 20th century. Witnessing the rise of Stalinism, fascism, and the propaganda machinery of World War II, Orwell penned this dystopian masterpiece as a dire warning against unchecked state power. The novel's bleak vision of a perpetually warring superstate, where individuality and truth are obliterated, reflects Orwell's own experiences with censorship and ideological manipulation during the Spanish Civil War. Written while he was terminally ill, 1984 became his final, urgent plea for vigilance against authoritarianism. Core themes. 1. Totalitarian control and surveillance. The party's mantra, "Big Brother is watching you," epitomizes the omnipresent surveillance state. Telescreens monitor citizens, while the thought police crush dissent. Orwell's concept of the panopticon foreshadowed modern debates on privacy and digital tracking. To reality manipulation and doublethink, the party enforces newspeak, a language designed to eliminate rebellious thought by erasing words like freedom and justice. Doublethink, the ability to hold two contradictory beliefs simultaneously, ensures obedience. * War is peace. Freedom is slavery. Ignorance is strength. 3. The destruction of history and truth. The party's Ministry of Truth rewrites history daily, asserting who controls the past controls the future, who controls the present controls the past. Orwell warns that without objective truth, reality becomes a tool of oppression. 4. The crushing of individuality. Protagonist Winston Smith's rebellion, a forbidden diary and affair with Julia, symbolizes the human spirit's resistance. Yet, his ultimate betrayal under torture, Do It to Julia, reveals the state's power to break even love and loyalty. 5. The banality of evil. O'Brien, the party's enforcer, embodies the cold rationality of tyranny. * Power is not a means, it is an end. The object of power is power. Legacy and relevance. 1984 coined terms like Big Brother, thought crime, and Orwellian, embedding itself in global discourse on authoritarianism. Its warnings resonate in modern phenomena: digital surveillance, NSA leaks, facial recognition, and social media tracking. Disinformation, fake news and algorithmic echo chambers. Language corruption, euphemisms like collateral damage or alternative facts. The novel has inspired adaptations in film, music, and protest movements, e.g., during the 2013 Snowden revelations. Yet, its bleakness sparks debate: is resistance futile, or does Winston's defiance, however crushed, still ignite hope? Further reflection: if you want a picture of the future, imagine a boot stamping on a human face forever. Orwell's grim prophecy challenges us to confront complacency. In an age of AI, deepfakes, and rising autocracy, 1984 compels us to ask, how do we safeguard truth and freedom when the tools of control grow ever more insidious? The answer lies not in despair but in relentless vigilance and the courage to say, like Winston, freedom is the freedom to say that 2 + 2 make 4. The Brothers Karamazov by Fyodor Dostoevsky. A Labyrinth of Faith, Doubt, and the Human Soul. Context and Creation. Published in 1880, The Brothers Karamazov stands as Fyodor Dostoevsky's final and most profound novel, synthesizing a lifetime of philosophical and spiritual inquiry. Written in the aftermath of personal turmoil including a mock execution, Siberian imprisonment, and the death of his young son, Dostoevsky grappled with existential despair and the crisis of faith permeating 19th-century Russia. Set in the fictional town of Skatoprigonyevsk, the novel revolves around the Karamazov family, the hedonistic father Fyodor and his sons Dmitry, passion, Ivan, intellect, Alyosha, faith, and the illegitimate Smerdyakov, nihilism. Their tumultuous relationships culminate in patricide, a catalyst for exploring humanity's deepest moral and spiritual fissures. Core themes. 1. The existential abyss. Ivan's rebellion. Ivan, the rational atheist, articulates the problem of evil in his visceral essay The Grand Inquisitor and the heart-wrenching poem Rebellion. His refusal to accept a world where innocent children suffer leads him to reject divine harmony. It's not God I don't accept, Alyosha. I just most respectfully return him the ticket. This existential crisis underscores the struggle to find meaning in a universe devoid of guaranteed justice. 2. Morality in a godless world. Ivan's declaration if God does not exist, everything is permitted haunts the narrative. Smerdyakov, internalizing this nihilism, commits patricide, exposing the dangers of moral relativism. Conversely, Dmitry's journey from debauchery to redemptive suffering, I am a scoundrel, but I long to be good, illustrates Dostoevsky's belief in the transformative power of guilt and grace. 3. Faith as active love. Alyosha and Elder Zosima. Alyosha, the spiritual anchor, embodies faith not as dogma but as compassionate action. Guided by the saintly elder Zosima, who teaches love all of God's creation, love every leaf, every ray of light, Elisha chooses to engage with the world's suffering rather than retreat into asceticism. His final act, kissing the earth in a gesture of cosmic solidarity, symbolizes faith's triumph over despair. For the burden of free will, the novel interrogates free will's paradox, the freedom to choose good or evil, and the responsibility that comes with it. Dimitri's trial becomes a metaphor for humanity's collective guilt and capacity for redemption. Legacy and relevance. The brothers Karamazov has shaped existentialism, Camus, Sartre, psychoanalysis, Freud, and theological thought. Its exploration of faith amid doubt resonates in secular modernity, where questions of meaning and morality persist. The Grand Inquisitor chapter remains a touchstone for debates on authority, freedom, and the cost of utopian ideals. In an era of ideological polarization and existential anxiety, Dostoevsky's plea for humility and interconnectedness, we are all responsible for everyone and everything, offers a radical antidote to alienation. The novel challenges readers to confront their own Karamazov-like contradictions, the tension between reason and faith, despair and hope. Further reflection. Above all, do not lie to yourself. Dostoevsky's warning, voiced by Elder Zosima, pierces through self-deception. In a world of curate identities and echo chambers, the brothers Karamazov compels us to confront uncomfortable truths, that doubt is the shadow of faith, that freedom demands responsibility, and that redemption lies not in answers, but in the courage to keep asking. The Bible, the living tapestry of covenant, redemption, and human struggle. Context and creation. The Bible, a compilation of 66 books, Protestant canon, or 73 books, Catholic/Orthodox canons, spans over 1,500 years of oral and written tradition. Its texts were composed by diverse authors, kings, prophets, shepherds, and fishermen in Hebrew, Aramaic, and Greek. The Old Testament, or Tanakh, chronicles the covenant between God and Israel, from creation to the Babylonian exile, while the New Testament centers on Jesus of Nazareth, his teachings, death, and resurrection, and the early Christian Church. Canonized through centuries of debate, e.g., the Council of Nicaea, 325 CE, the Bible's authority stems not from uniformity but from its layered dialogue between divine revelation and human experience. Core themes. 1. Covenant and redemption. The Bible's arc traces humanity's fractured relationship with the divine and God's relentless pursuit of reconciliation. From Abraham's promise, "I will make you a great nation," Genesis 12:2, to Jesus' new covenant, Luke 22:20, it frames history as a divine drama of fall and restoration. 2. Ethics of justice and mercy. The Ten Commandments, Exodus 20, and Jesus' Sermon on the Mount, Matthew 5:7, establish ethical cornerstones, love for God and neighbor, care for the marginalized, and forgiveness. The prophets, e.g., Amos, Isaiah, thunder against oppression, let justice roll down like waters, Amos 5:24. 3. The human condition. Biblical narratives unflinchingly depict humanity's capacity for both nobility and depravity. David's adultery and repentance, Psalm 51, Job's anguished questioning of suffering, and Peter's denial of Jesus reveal a God who engages with flawed humanity. 4. Law versus grace. Tension between legalism, Mosaic law, and unmerited grace. While we were still sinners, Christ died for us, Romans 5:8, underpins Christian theology. Paul's epistles reframe obedience as faith-driven love. The entire law is fulfilled in keeping this one command: love your neighbor as yourself, Galatians 5:14. Legacy and relevance. The Bible's influence permeates Western civilization, literature. Shakespeare, Milton, and Morrison drew on its themes. Politics, inspired movements like abolitionism, William Wilberforce, and civil rights, Milk's I Have a Dream sermon. Philosophy, shaped Augustine's City of God, Kierkegaard's existential faith, and Kant's moral imperatives. Yet its legacy is fraught. Colonizers weaponized scriptures to justify slavery and conquest, while liberation theologians, e.g., Gustavo Gutierrez, reclaimed them for the poor. Modern debates over LGBTQ and inclusion, science, e.g., evolution, and gender roles reflect ongoing struggles to interpret ancient texts in contemporary contexts. Further reflection: He has shown you, O mortal, what is good. And what does the Lord require of you? To act justly, to love mercy, and to walk humbly with your God. Micah 6:8 distills the Bible's ethical core. In an era of climate crisis, systemic inequality, and ideological divides, this ancient call to justice and humility challenges believers and skeptics alike. How do we steward power? Whose dignity will we fight for? The Bible, in all its complexity, remains not a static rulebook but a living invitation to wrestle, to doubt, and to seek the sacred in the struggle for a better world. The Quran, the divine revelation and foundation of Islamic civilization. Context and creation. The Quran, Islam's sacred scripture, is believed by Muslims to be the literal word of God, Allah, revealed to the Prophet Muhammad through the angel Gabriel over 23 years, 610-632 CE. Composed in classical Arabic, its 114 chapters, surahs, were memorized by Muhammad's followers and compiled into written form shortly after his death under Caliph Uthman, circa 650 CE. The Quran's structure defies chronology, blending legal injunctions, parables, and spiritual exhortations, with longer surahs often addressing societal norms and shorter, poetic ones emphasizing divine majesty. Rooted in 7th century Arabia's tribal and polytheistic milieu, the Quran's message of monotheism, justice, and moral accountability transformed the region into a unified spiritual and political force. Core themes. 1. Tawhid, the oneness of God. The Quran's central doctrine asserts Allah's absolute unity and transcendence. Say, He is Allah, the One, Surah 112:1. It rejects idolatry and intermediaries, urging direct submission, Islam, to God. 2. Prophethood and revelation. The Quran venerates earlier prophets, Adam, Noah, Abraham, Moses, Jesus, as links in a divine chain, with Muhammad as the seal of the prophets, 33:40. Their stories underscore universal themes of faith, perseverance, and divine justice. 3. Accountability and the afterlife. Humanity's actions are judged on the day of resurrection. Whoever does an atom's weight of good will see it, and whoever does an atom's weight of evil will see it. 99:7-8. Heaven, Jannah, and hell, Jahannam, are vividly depicted as eternal consequences. 4. Social justice and ethics. The Quran mandates care for orphans, widows, and the poor, zakat almsgiving, and condemns exploitation. Do not devour one another's wealth unjustly. 2:188. It advocates equity in legal testimony. 4:135, and fair treatment of women, though interpretations of gender roles vary widely. 5. Jihad, struggle and balance, often misrepresented. Jihad primarily signifies spiritual striving against sin and societal corruption. Defensive warfare is permitted but strictly regulated, e.g., 2:190, do not transgress limits. Legacy and relevance. The Quran's influence extends far beyond religion, law and governance. Sharia, Islamic law, derives from the Quran and Muhammad's traditions, Sunnah, shaping legal systems in Muslim-majority nations. Art and culture, Quranic calligraphy, architecture, e.g., mosques' geometric designs, and Arabic poetry reflect its aesthetic and linguistic impact. Science and education. Medieval Muslim scholars, inspired by Quranic injunctions to seek knowledge, e.g., 96:1-5, advanced fields like astronomy, medicine, and mathematics. Today, the Quran remains a living guide for 1.9 billion Muslims, recited in daily prayers and Ramadan rituals. Yet its interpretation sparks debates. Reformers cite verses on mercy, e.g., 5:32, whoever saves a life, it is as if they saved all mankind, to advocate for human rights and pluralism, while extremists distort texts to justify violence. Further reflection: O mankind, indeed we have created you from male and female and made you peoples and tribes that you may know one another. 49:13. This Quranic call for mutual respect challenges societies fractured by xenophobia and sectarianism. In an age of climate crisis and inequality, the Quran's emphasis on stewardship, khalifa, and balance, mizan, offers a timeless blueprint to harmonize faith with reason, justice with compassion, and individual duty with collective good. The Tao Te Ching by Laozi, the path of harmony and the essence of effortless being. Context and creation attributed to the sage Laozi, literally Old Master. The Tao Te Ching is a cornerstone of Taoist philosophy, composed around the 4th century BCE during China's Warring States period, a time of political fragmentation and social upheaval. Legend holds that Laozi, a disillusioned archivist, penned the text's 81 verses as he departed civilization, leaving behind a guide to balance and wisdom. While historical details of Laozi's life remain shrouded in myth, the work endures as a poetic antidote to chaos, advocating alignment with the Tao, the Way, the primordial force governing the universe. Core themes: 1. The Tao, the unnamable source. The Tao transcends definition. The Tao that can be told is not the eternal Tao. Chapter 1. It is the rhythm of nature, the flow of existence, and the unity underlying apparent opposites. 2. Wu Wei, effortless action. Wu Wei emphasizes action through non-force, akin to water shaping landscapes without struggle. The soft overcomes the hard, the gentle overcomes the rigid. Chapter 36. It is not passivity but strategic harmony with the natural order. 3. Yin and Yang, balance of opposites. The Tao harmonizes complementary forces: dark/light, stillness/movement, humility/strength. All things carry yin and embrace yang. Chapter 42. True power arises from equilibrium. 4. Simplicity and humility. Laozi critiques excess and ambition. He who knows he has enough is rich. Chapter 33. Leaders are advised to govern minimally, fostering trust through example rather than coercion. 5. Feminine principle. The mother. The Tao is likened to a nurturing mother, valuing receptivity and intuition. The valley spirit never dies, it is the woman, primal mother. Chapter 6. This contrasts patriarchal rigidity, celebrating flexibility as strength. Legacy and relevance. The Tao Te Ching has shaped East Asian culture, influencing Chinese medicine, martial arts, e.g., Tai Chi, and landscape painting. Its themes resonate globally. Environmental ethics. Advocates of sustainability draw on its call to live in harmony with nature. Leadership and governance. Modern management theories echo its emphasis on empathetic, adaptive leadership. Psychology and wellness. Principles of Wu Wei inform stress reduction techniques and mindfulness practices. Philosophers like Nietzsche and Jung admired its depth, while translations by scholars such as D.C. Lau and Stephen Mitchell have popularized its wisdom in the West. In an age of climate crisis and digital overload, its plea for simplicity and balance manifest plainness, embrace simplicity. Chapter 19, feels urgently prescient. Further reflection. A journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step. Chapter 64. Laozi's aphorism transcends time, reminding us that transformation starts with mindful presence. In a world obsessed with speed and control, the Tao Te Ching invites us to pause, breathe, and align with the quiet pulse of the Tao, where true power lies not in domination, but in graceful coexistence. The Bhagavad Gita, the eternal dialogue on duty, dharma, and self-realization. Context and creation. Composed circa 400 BCE 400 CE as part of the Indian epic Mahabharata, the Bhagavad Gita, Song of the Lord, unfolds on the battlefield of Kurukshetra. Prince Arjuna, paralyzed by moral anguish over fighting his kin, seeks guidance from his charioteer, Lord Krishna, an incarnation of the divine Vishnu. Their 700-verse dialogue transcends its wartime setting, addressing universal struggles with duty, identity, and existence. Rooted in Sanatana Dharma, eternal order, the Gita synthesizes Hindu philosophy, offering a roadmap to spiritual liberation, moksha, amidst life's conflicts. Core Themes 1. Dharma, righteous duty. Arjuna's crisis epitomizes the conflict between personal emotion and societal duty, svadharma. Krishna implores him to act selflessly, do your duty without attachment, for action is better than inaction, 2:47-48. 2 Paths to Liberation, Yogas, Karma Yoga, selfless action, detached from outcomes, Nishkama Karma. Bhakti Yoga, devotion to the divine, exemplified by Krishna's revelation as cosmic sovereign, Vishvarupa. Jnana Yoga, pursuit of wisdom to realize the immortal self, Atman, distinct from the perishable body. 3 The nature of existence. Krishna teaches that the soul, Atman, is eternal, while the body is transient. The wise do not mourn for the living or the dead, 2:11. This duality urges detachment from material impermanence. 4 Equanimity and inner peace. The Gita advocates samatvam, equanimity, in success and failure, symbolized by the lotus unstained by muddy waters, the person undisturbed by chaos, who remains calm in pleasure and pain. They alone attain immortality, 2:15. Legacy and relevance. The Bhagavad Gita has shaped global thought, philosophy, influenced Thoreau, Emerson, and Einstein, who admired its spiritual scientific synthesis. Politics. Gandhi drew on its teachings of nonviolent resistance, ahimsa, during India's independence movement. Modern psychology. Concepts like mindfulness and stress management echo its emphasis on mental discipline, dhyana. Its teachings permeate corporate leadership training, where Nishkama Karma reframes success as purpose-driven action. Yet debates persist. Is the Gita a call to righteous war or allegory for internal struggle? Its adaptability, invoked by both activists and entrepreneurs, speaks to its timeless resonance. Further reflection. Set thy heart upon thy work, but never on its reward. Krishna's counsel pierces through modern obsessions with productivity and validation. In a world of burnout and existential drift, the Gita challenges us to redefine purpose, not as a destination, but as the integrity of our actions. How might we, like Arjuna, rise above doubt and act with clarity, not for gain, but for the sake of the sacred duty that binds us all? The Wealth of Nations by Adam Smith. The Birth of Modern Economics and the Case for Free Markets. Context and Creation, published in 1776, the same year as the American Declaration of Independence. An inquiry into the nature and causes of the wealth of nations emerged during the Enlightenment's intellectual ferment and the dawn of the Industrial Revolution. Adam Smith, a Scottish philosopher influenced by thinkers like David Hume and François Quesnay, sought to dismantle mercantilism, the dominant economic system that equated national wealth with hoarding gold and restricting trade. Observing the rise of British colonialism and monopolistic practices, Smith penned this treatise to advocate for free markets, specialization, and the transformative power of self-interest. The book's timing, amid revolutionary calls for liberty, positioned it as a manifesto for economic emancipation. Core Themes 1. Division of labor and productivity. Smith's iconic pin factory example illustrates how dividing tasks among workers exponentially boosts efficiency. One man draws out the wire, another straights it, a third cuts it. Book I. Specialization, he argues, drives economic growth by fostering innovation and skill refinement. 2. The invisible hand. Smith's metaphor for market self-regulation posits that individuals pursuing self-interest inadvertently benefit society. By directing industry to promote the public interest, he promotes his own more effectually than when he really intends to promote it. Book 4. This became a cornerstone of capitalist theory. 3. Free trade and anti-mercantilism. Condemning tariffs and monopolies, Smith champions open markets. It is the maxim of every prudent master of a family never to attempt to make at home what it will cost him more to make than to buy. Book 4. He critiques mercantilism's zero-sum mindset, advocating instead for mutual gains through comparative advantage. 4. Limited but vital government role. While advocating laissez-faire principles, Smith assigns governments critical duties: defense, justice, infrastructure, and education. No society can surely be flourishing and happy of which the far greater part of the members are poor and miserable. Book I. 5. Labor as the source of value. Smith's labor theory of value asserts that a commodity's worth derives from the work required to produce it, a precursor to later economic thought, including Marx's critiques. Legacy and relevance. The wealth of nations laid the groundwork for classical economics, shaping capitalism's rise and inspiring figures like David Ricardo and John Maynard Keynes. Its principles underpin globalization, yet Smith's nuanced vision balancing markets with moral responsibility is often oversimplified. Critics highlight modern capitalism's pitfalls: income inequality, environmental degradation, and corporate monopolies, which contradict Smith's warnings against unchecked greed and collusion. Today, the text fuels debates on regulation, e.g., big tech antitrust cases, and universal basic income. Smith's emphasis on education and worker dignity resonates in movements for fair wages and ethical supply chains. Further reflection. It is not from the benevolence of the butcher, the brewer, or the baker that we expect our dinner, but from their regard to their own interest. Smith's famous line encapsulates his faith in mutually beneficial exchange. In an era of AI-driven automation and climate crisis, his work challenges us to ask, can markets still serve the common good? Or must we redefine self-interest to include planetary survival? The answer may lie in Smith's own blend of pragmatism and moral vision, where prosperity is measured not just in wealth, but in the well-being of all. Das Kapital by Karl Marx. The Anatomy of Capitalism and the Seeds of Revolutionary Change. Context and Creation, published in 1867, Das Kapital, Capital, A Critique of Political Economy, emerged from Karl Marx's decades of intellectual rigor and political activism during the Industrial Revolution's zenith. Witnessing rampant worker exploitation in factories and urban slums, Marx, alongside collaborator Friedrich Engels, sought to expose capitalism's systemic flaws. Exiled from Germany and living in poverty in London, Marx synthesized influences from Hegelian dialectics, classical economics, Smith, Ricardo, and socialist thought to craft this monumental work. Though only Volume 1 was completed in his lifetime, Volumes 2 and 3 were posthumously edited by Engels. Das Kapital became the cornerstone of Marxist theory, blending economic analysis with a call for proletarian revolution. Core themes. 1. Surplus value and exploitation. Marx argues that profit originates from surplus value, the difference between the value workers produce and the wages they receive. Capitalists extract this surplus by extending work hours or intensifying labor, creating systemic inequality. 2. Commodity fetishism. Under capitalism, social relationships are masked by the exchange of commodities. A product's value becomes divorced from the labor behind it, reducing human effort to abstract market prices. 3. Class struggle and alienation. The bourgeoisie, capitalist class, and proletariat, working class, are locked in inherent conflict. Workers are alienated from their labor's fruits, their creativity stifled by mechanized production. 4. Crises of capitalism. Marx predicts capitalism's self-destruction through cyclical crises: overproduction, unemployment, and falling profit rates. The system's reliance on infinite growth clashes with finite resources and worker immiseration. 5. Historical materialism. Economic systems evolve dialectically. Feudalism birthed capitalism, which Marx believed would collapse into socialism as workers seized the means of production. Legacy and relevance. Das Kapital ignited global socialist movements, inspiring revolutions in Russia, 1917, China, 1949, and beyond. Its critiques underpin labor rights victories, 8-hour workdays, unions, and academic fields like critical theory. While Marx's prophecy of capitalism's imminent collapse remains unfulfilled, his analysis resonates in modern crises: inequality, the top 1% now holds over 40% of global wealth, echoing Marx's warnings. Automation, gig workers and AI-driven job loss reflect renewed alienation. Climate crisis, capitalism's growth obsession accelerates ecological breakdown. Critics argue Marx underestimated capitalism's adaptability, e.g., welfare states, consumerism. Yet, 21st-century scholars revive his ideas to critique neoliberalism and financialization. Further reflection: the philosophers have only interpreted the world, the point is to change it. Marx's theses on Feuerbach, 1845, underscores Das Kapital's revolutionary aim. In an era of gig economies and climate collapse, his work challenges us to ask, can capitalism reform its contradictions? Or does survival demand reimagining an economy where value serves people, not profit? The answer may determine if we heed Marx's warning or repeat history's cycles of crisis. The Second Sex by Simone de Beauvoir. The Deconstruction of Womanhood and the Fight for Existential Freedom. Context and Creation. Published in 1949, The Second Sex emerged as a radical manifesto during a post-World War II era marked by efforts to reinstate traditional gender roles. Simone de Beauvoir, a leading existentialist philosopher and lifelong partner of Jean-Paul Sartre, applied existentialist principles: autonomy, responsibility, and the creation of self to dismantle the myth of inherent femininity. Drawing on philosophy, biology, history, and literature, de Beauvoir confronted the systemic oppression of women, arguing that patriarchal societies relegate women to secondary status through socialization, not biology. The book's explosive thesis, "One is not born, but rather becomes a woman," ignited global debate, earning both acclaim and condemnation, including a Vatican ban. Core themes: 1. The other and patriarchal hierarchy. Women are cast as the other, defined in relation to men, who occupy the default position of subject. This hierarchy perpetuates male dominance and female subordination: he is the absolute, she is the alterity. 2. Myths of femininity. De Beauvoir dissects cultural constructs like the eternal feminine, idealized roles, mother, wife, seductress, that confine women to passive, nurturing archetypes. These myths deny women individuality and agency. 3. Economic and social dependence. Women's oppression is rooted in economic dependency. Denied equal access to education, careers, and financial autonomy, women remain trapped in domesticity, reliant on male providers. 4. Existential liberation. Echoing existentialism, de Beauvoir asserts that freedom requires rejecting imposed identities. Women must transcend societal expectations and achieve self-realization as autonomous beings. 5. Intersectional insights. Proto-concept. While focusing on gender, de Beauvoir acknowledges intersecting oppressions of class and race, noting that a working-class woman's experience differs from a bourgeois woman's. This foreshadowed later intersectional feminism. Legacy and relevance. The Second Sex revolutionized feminist theory, catalyzing second-wave feminism and inspiring figures like Betty Friedan, The Feminine Mystique, and Shulamith Firestone, The Dialectic of Sex. Its critique of gender performativity laid groundwork for Judith Butler's Gender Trouble. However, critiques persist. De Beauvoir's focus on white, Western women marginalized non-Western experiences, a gap addressed by later feminists like Bell Hooks and Kimberly Crenshaw. Today, the text resonates in movements combating gender-based violence, Me Too, advocating reproductive rights, and challenging rigid gender binaries. Its call for economic independence echoes in demands for pay equity and subsidized childcare. Further reflection. Representation of the world, like the world itself, is the work of men. They describe it from their own point of view, which they confuse with absolute truth. De Beauvoir's words remain a rallying cry in an age of algorithmic bias and media misrepresentation. As debates on gender identity and intersectionality evolve, the Second Sex challenges us to dismantle lingering myths and to forge a world where every individual, regardless of gender, can claim the existential freedom to become whomever they choose. The Art of War by Sun Tzu. The timeless science of strategy and human conflict. Context and creation. Written in the 5th century BCE during China's tumultuous spring and autumn period, The Art of War is attributed to Sun Tzu, a military general and strategist whose existence remains debated but whose influence is indisputable. Composed as a tactical guide for rulers and commanders, the text reflects an era of constant warfare among feudal states, where survival depended on cunning leadership and resourcefulness. Sun Tzu distilled his insights into 13 concise chapters, offering principles that transcended the battlefield to address diplomacy, governance, and human psychology. Core themes. 1. Victory without battle. The highest form of strategy avoids direct conflict. To subdue the enemy without fighting is the acme of skill. Sun Tzu prioritizes deception, alliances, and psychological warfare to neutralize threats. To know thyself, know thy enemy. Success hinges on self-awareness and intelligence. If you know the enemy and know yourself, you need not fear the result of 100 battles. Misjudging either leads to defeat. 3. Adaptability and deception. Flexibility in tactics and misdirection confound opponents. All warfare is based on deception. Leaders must mimic water's fluidity, shaping their strategy according to the enemy's dispositions. 4. Terrain and timing. Mastery of geography and seizing the strategic momentum, are critical. The value of time often proves greater than superior numbers. 5. Economy of resources. Prolonged war drains nations. There is no instance of a country having benefited from prolonged warfare. Efficiency and swift, decisive action preserve strength. Legacy and relevance. The art of war has transcended its military origins to become a cornerstone of global strategy. Military influence, required reading in academies like West Point and Sandhurst, cited by generals from Napoleon to Norman Schwarzkopf. Business and leadership. CEOs and entrepreneurs apply its principles to negotiations, competition, and crisis management. Concepts like SWOT analysis, strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, threats, echo Sun Tzu's teachings. Sports and politics. Coaches like Phil Jackson and politicians like Lee Kuan Yew have leveraged its insights for team dynamics and statecraft. Modern conflict. Cyber warfare and corporate espionage tactics draw on its emphasis on information and psychological dominance. Further reflection. Supreme excellence lies in breaking the enemy's resistance without fighting. Sun Tzu's ideal of bloodless victory challenges modern leaders. Can we resolve conflicts, whether in boardrooms, geopolitics, or climate negotiations, through wisdom rather than force? In an age of information overload and rapid change, the art of war reminds us that the greatest battles are won not with weapons, but with foresight, adaptability, and the courage to redefine the rules. Summary of The Interpretation of Dreams by Sigmund Freud and its role in psychoanalysis. 1. Introduction to Psychoanalysis. Freud's seminal work, published in 1900, established psychoanalysis as a method to explore the unconscious mind. It posits that understanding hidden psychological forces is key to addressing mental disorders. 2. The unconscious mind. Freud revolutionized psychology by emphasizing the unconscious, a repository of repressed desires, memories, and thoughts inaccessible to conscious awareness. This concept shifted focus from observable behavior to internal mental processes. 3. Dream theory. Manifest versus latent content. Dreams have a surface narrative, manifest content, and a hidden meaning, latent content, often tied to repressed wishes or childhood experiences. Wish fulfillment. Dreams fulfill unconscious desires, even distressing ones, by disguising them through symbolic processes. 4. Dream work mechanisms. Condensation, merging multiple ideas into a single dream image. Displacement, shifting emotional significance to neutral elements. Symbolism, using objects, e.g., snakes, water, to represent repressed concepts. Secondary revision, organizing disjointed dream elements into a coherent narrative. 5. Psychoanalytic therapy. Dream interpretation is a therapeutic tool to uncover repressed material. By analyzing symbols and latent content, patients gain insight into unconscious conflicts, facilitating catharsis and resolution. 6. Psychic structure, Freud's model of the mind, ID, ego, superego, highlights the unconscious ID's primal drives, the moral superego, and the ego mediating reality. Repression by the ego keeps unacceptable desires in the unconscious. 7. Legacy and criticism, while Freud's emphasis on sexuality, e.g., Oedipus complex, and rigid symbolism is contested, his core ideas, unconscious influence, defense mechanisms, and talk therapy remain foundational. Modern psychology acknowledges unconscious processes, albeit with updated frameworks. 8. Impact, Freud's work pioneered the study of the unconscious, influencing later theories and therapies. It underscored the complexity of human motivation and laid groundwork for exploring mental health beyond surface symptoms. In essence, Freud's exploration of dreams as the royal road to the unconscious redefined psychology, emphasizing the profound role of hidden mental processes in shaping human behavior and mental well-being. Summary of Man's Search for Meaning by Viktor Frankl and its role in existential psychology. 1. Introduction to Logotherapy. Frankl's seminal work, written in 1946, merges his harrowing Holocaust experiences with psychological theory. It introduces logotherapy, a therapeutic approach centered on the belief that the primary human drive is not pleasure, Freud, or power, Adler, but the pursuit of meaning. 2. Core philosophy, meaning in suffering, even in extreme adversity, life retains purpose. Frankl argues that suffering becomes bearable when imbued with meaning, famously stating, "He who has a why to live can bear almost any how." Freedom of choice, humans possess the freedom to choose their attitude toward circumstances, even when they cannot change them. This existential autonomy is central to resilience. 3. Three sources of meaning, creative work, contributing to the world through deeds or achievements. Experiential values, finding purpose in love, art, or nature. Attitudinal values, embracing dignity and courage in the face of unavoidable suffering. 4. Existential analysis, Frankl challenges nihilism, asserting that meaning is not invented but discovered in life's moments. His time in Nazi camps revealed that prisoners who retained a sense of purpose, e.g., hope for reunion, unfinished work, were more likely to survive. 5. Therapeutic approach, paradoxical intention, a technique where patients confront fears by exaggerating them, reducing anxiety's power. Dereflection, shifting focus away from self-absorption toward meaningful external goals. Logotherapy empowers individuals to reframe their narrative, emphasizing responsibility over victimhood. 6. Criticism and legacy, critiques, some argue Frankl's optimism risks minimizing systemic suffering or oversimplifying trauma. Others question the universality of his concentration camp-derived insights. Impact, revolutionized existential psychology, influencing resilience studies, trauma therapy, and positive psychology. His emphasis on meaning and choice remains foundational in counseling and self-help movements. 7. Modern relevance, Frankl's ideas resonate in therapies like acceptance and commitment therapy, ACT, and mindfulness practices. They underscore the human capacity to transcend suffering through purpose, aligning with contemporary research on post-traumatic growth. In essence, Man's Search for Meaning reframes adversity as a catalyst for existential clarity, asserting that life's value lies not in circumstances but in our response to them. Frankl's legacy endures as a testament to the indomitable human spirit's quest for purpose. Book conclusion. The unending conversation the books chronicled in Echoes of Eternity are more than static words on paper, they are participants in an unending conversation that spans millennia. From Aristotle's pursuit of virtue to Marx's critique of capitalism, these works remind us that human progress is not linear but a mosaic of debates, revelations, and reinventions. What unites these diverse voices is their audacity to challenge the status quo. Nietzsche's proclamation that God is dead shook the foundations of morality, while Freud's exploration of the unconscious unveiled the hidden forces driving human behavior. The Quran and the Bible, though rooted in faith, have shaped secular ethics and art, proving that spiritual and intellectual quests often intertwine. Even Orwell's dystopian warning in 1984 resonates today, urging vigilance against the erosion of freedom. Yet, this book is not a final chapter but an invitation. The true power of these texts lies in their ability to provoke new questions in every generation. As technology advances and societies evolve, the insights of Kant, Hawking, or Frankl remain compasses guiding us through uncharted terrain. Let Echoes of Eternity be a starting point, a catalyst to engage with these works directly, to debate their merits, and to contribute your own voice to humanity's grand dialogue. For in the words of Isaac Newton, if I have seen further, it is by standing on the shoulders of giants. May these giants lift you to new horizons. Echoes of Eternity does not end here, it begins anew with every reader who dares to think, question, and dream.